Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing SkysTheLimit's blue-red Delver deck that they won a challenge with. So, first of all, it is lovely to see Delver of Secrets back in the meta. This is a card that I think should always be playable. Not necessarily the best thing you can do, but I always want this card to be playable and decent in legacy. I think that's a good benchmark to have. And that's where we are, hopefully. So, this is a Delver deck. You've all seen it before, but let's have a little refresher. So we've got 8 1-drops, and we're trying to back it up with things like Daze and Force of Will to make sure that we can get over the finish line with it. Dragon's Rage Channeler allows us to power up things like Murktide Regent by filling our graveyard and making sure we find the right interaction we need. Line and Bolt is back in the meta. This card was unplayable during Psychic Frog era, but now we can actually shoot our opponent in the face or kill some creatures with it, and it's beautiful. We've got a couple of Unholy Heats to kill bigger things and a couple of Brazen Borrowers to bounce some stuff. We've got a lot of cantrips, so we've got Baubles, Ponder, Brainstorm, and a Preordain to try and get our Delirium going and find the pieces we need. The extra sorcery here does make quite a big difference, I think you'll find, so hopefully we can showcase that and getting Delirium a little bit more easily than previous builds. We also have 2 Questing Druids in here with a single Tropical Island to cast it. So we're mainly just doing Seek the Beast. This is like our own little expressive iteration type thing. Then sometimes we can just fetch up the Trop and deploy this and have a creature as well. We've obviously got beautiful 4 Wastelands here. We have no Surveil lands in this list, which I have seen some builds with the Surveil lands, so interesting to see how this one plays out. We've got 4 Volcanic Islands and a basic island. The basic island is kind of instead of the Surveil land, I think, here. And it will come in handy sometimes. Sideboard-wise, we got blasts of different colours. We've got Price of Progress. We've got some Force of Negation for more combo matches. Blown up artifacts, we can do that. Red being back in the meta means that Meltdown is a card that people have to respect again, which is nice. Because the only red deck that was in the meta before was basically Painter or like the Blood Moon Stompy decks, neither of which would be playing Meltdowns. Alright, we've also got Grafdigger's Cage to mess with some graveyard stuff, which we can also use our counter magic to try and fight against as well. And we've got 3 Consigned Memory for all these big Eldrazi's and Mystic Forge, dual combo, that sort of jam. Alright, that is the list. I'm excited to play some Delver again after what feels like an eternity of this deck being out in the cold. So remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to see my videos early, become a YouTube member for £1 a month and you can see them all and you can binge some videos over Christmas time. Alright, let's jam some Delver. Alright, our opening hand is Delver with a couple of bits of disruption. This seems like a reasonable place to be. We're on the draw, so things like Daze become a little bit worse. Just a Ponder off of a basic island. They did not shuffle, so they liked what they saw. I'm going to save my fetch lands for later. I'm going to play out this Delver of Secrets, and then we're going to do the Mishra's Bauble trick where we fire this in our opponent's turn. And that way we get to have a draw. So we target ourselves with the Mishra's Bauble in our opponent's turn, and then we can stack the draw or the reveal, depending on if the top card that we've seen helps us out or not. Prismatic Vista, so we're probably looking at a slower deck, some sort of blue-white X control deck. That's my first thoughts. Tag ourselves here. Misty Rainforest. So we want to stack the draw above the reveal. So we put the reveal on the bottom and the draw on the top. So we draw this Misty Rainforest, and then we have a look with the Delver. An Unholy Heat. Yes, I'll reveal that, and flip our creature. So this Wasteland is unlikely to do anything right now, so I think we're better off playing one of our other lands. Now the issue we have here is if our opponent just plows here, are we supposed to force that when they're holding up something like Spell Pierce? It's the only pressure we have. Or are we going to save our Force of Will to stop something like a Narset or a Teferi that could just change the game up? We have quite a lot of lands in hand as well. And this Wasteland not being useful could be a real burden. Now they might have some non-basics down the line, like a Meticulous Archive type thing, which would be alright to hit. Because our opponent's deck is built so it largely ignores Wasteland. But when you actually do get to hit with a Wasteland, it does a lot. I don't think we can just try and protect the Delver here when our opponent has some pretty sizable haymakers likely in their deck. Hopefully they'll just let it through. So they might kill it at end step. No? Okay. Would love a blue card here so we can Daze and Force. Just a Ponder is fine. I can allow that. So this Polluted Delta is making our opponent consider Orcish Bowmasters. That's why this is the better of these lands to play right now, because it's going to put that seed of doubt into our opponent's mind when they cast cantrips. And if our opponent plays around something we don't have, that can be pretty good for us. We don't have a Surveil land, so there's no point cracking this. Murktide Regent. Okay. I'll play another land. This is a blue card if we need it. Right, so I think we're going to be seeing the Swords to Plowshares right now. I don't think we can interact with this. Something like a Murktide Regent is going to be a better thing to protect. And I also think if our opponent is dropping something like a Narset here, it can just shut off all of our cantrips and things. Our opponent's done a lot more sculpting than we have. Teferi or Narset by the looks of things. Oh, a Murktide Regent. 4 cards. This is going to be a 5/5. How close are we to getting this Unholy Heat off? Not very. So I think we're going to pitch this Daze and try and get our own Murktide Regent up and running in a few turns' time. Again, we just have all these fetch lands and no Surveil land. So we could play a fetch land. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can just play a 4/4 Murktide. Is that worth doing? I think it's probably fine here. I'm not expecting a Daze from our opponent. This is not the most impressive, but we need to get something going because our opponent has some pretty good late game plays in their deck that's going to be bigger than ours, so we need to kind of get in underneath them a little bit. It's only a 4/4. I could play out a land. I guess we want to play out one land so at least we have a fetch land available if we have a Brainstorm later on, because we're going to want to play our fetch land after our Brainstorm anyway. But the other 2 lands in our hand are going to stay there so we can Brainstorm them back if we ever find a Brainstorm. Another island. So they're gated by white mana a little bit right now. Thought Lash. Okay, our opponent is on a Lash Gordon deck. Pretty sweet. I love the Lash Gordon decks. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. So we need to overload this Lash because they're just going to keep paying. So if you're unfamiliar with this card, they exile cards on top of their library and prevent that much damage. And then they have to exile cards at the beginning of each upkeep to keep this around, and it's cumulative. So what they're going to do at some point is play Thassa's Oracle, and then with the trigger on the stack, they'll exile the rest of their library. So we need to get more pressure going so it forces them to exile more cards and maybe messes up their combo. If we have a Brazen Borrower, we have to bounce the Thought Lash in our opponent's turn because they can still put the triggers on in our turn. So we need to draw a Brazen Borrower and survive another turn cycle. Brainstorm. Wouldn't mind some of those myself. And a Ponder. So the longer this game goes, obviously the closer our opponent's going to be to comboing. Alright, so they're comboing right now. Let's see if they exile their entire deck or not. So we get to have a look at their list, which is why I'm letting them go through this. Let's see if there's anything interesting in here. Lots of cantrips, Paradigm Shift, Thought Lash, the Fairies, just plows. There's only sweepers in here, like Supreme Verdict style cards. They're pretty light on the white splash, so I don't think they can afford the white card very easily, especially when they're trying to play on basics. Are they trying to do anything else with their basics, like back to basics here? Buster Storm, yeah, that's pretty good. Right, I can't see any back to basics in there. So Consign to memory, we can consign the trigger of the Thassa's Oracle. Pyroblast looks ridiculously good in this matchup. Force of Negation is pretty decent too. So we've got potentially 9 cards I'm interested in. That's a lot. So we're going to have to make some amount of cuts here. Have a little bit more space to see what we're doing here. I don't think Wasteland is going to be an important card this matchup. So I think we can at least take 2 of those out. Can we just take them all out? Honestly, I think we probably could. So the best cards so far from the sideboard are the Red Blasts. So we'll get those in straight away. Then, do we need the Consigns? Did we see... I don't think we saw a Cavern of Souls when they milled over. So maybe we don't need these Wastelands. But maybe they could board them in, so maybe we do want a couple of Wastelands, just in case. So they have Cavern. We can dig for them. The Unholy Heat isn't really necessary here. And do we want some Force of Negations? Because this can hit Teferi. I'd rather counter a Teferi or a Thought Lash than try and consign to memory a trigger. So I think it's the Force of Negations that I'm more interested in here. Lightning Bolt isn't the most useful thing. So I guess we take this out and have the Forces. That looks reasonable. Let's give this a whirl. I will mulligan this for some land, please. Iron Ponder. Not a bad way to start a game of Magic the Gathering. You can probably put about 1 of these lands. I don't think we're fetching basics. Let's Ponder. And then we'll decide if we use the Bauble right now or not. Okay, I don't really want to use the Bauble right now. But I would like all these cards. So yeah. So next turn we play the 2 channelers and then play a Bauble. And then we're probably quite likely to be in Delirium Town then. And if not then at least on our next attack step, we can fire for Brainstorm, and that is a lot of cards that we can see and then manipulate with any other spell to put in the graveyard. So we could just play 1 channeler and then try and ponder instead. But I think we're just going to go for the max channeler value here. Let's get Friend, especially while there's no Blue Blast available to our opponent right now. So we at least get the Surveil action going. Red Elemental Blast. That is exactly the sort of card I want in this matchup. Do I want to draw it right now? I think it matters if we draw it now or next turn. Our opponent hasn't shown us Bowmasters or anything. They didn't show us Fast Mana or Narset either. So by leaving the Bauble up here, what we can do is wait till our opponent does things like casting Ponders or Brainstorms, and we can see what they leave on top. And then we can make a decision afterwards. Alternatively, we just fire this off now and have an additional card. Because we don't have a land drop queued up. Alright, we've got something in the second main phase. This could be something like a Paradigm Shift would be a pretty bold one. Swords, 2 Plowshares. Sure. We don't get to make our guy delirious to gain more life then. I don't think the life matters anyway. Let's take a look. Paradigm Shift on top. Okay. Cast a Brainstorm. Another Pyroblast. I do want that. More pressure via the Delver is also quite desirable here. I think we're going to mill off this Questing Druid with our Mishra's Bauble trigger. So we could put down a Ponder and then the Druid. And we play this. We don't need to mill off the Druid now, actually, because we have the Brainstorm in there. So do I want to play the Delver here and go shields down on a Red Blast right now and just get the pressure going? Our opponent is unlikely to win next turn, but they could set something up. I think I want to just get this Delver going. Just max out on the pressure we have. And then next turn we can just hold up. So we know our opponent's drawing a Paradigm Shift. We're going to wait till they've drawn this card, and then we're going to pop this so that the Questing Druid ends up in our hand, and then the Ponder gets revealed to the Delver. Does seem bold to cast a Paradigm Shift here, but they might have the hand for it. I think if we untap here, I feel very solid. So what the next card is, Thassa's Oracle. Okay. So they've got options there. So we want to draw the card first. We put the Delver on the bottom, draw the Questing Druid, and then we can hold up Questing Druid and these 2 Red Blasts. And we draw a Ponder. We could Ponder for a land, but we don't need to really. We can just sit there holding up what we're doing. And we've got a lot of damage coming in. I think we are right to Pyroblast the... Oh, they're shuffling away the Thassa's Oracle. I'm saying we're probably right to Pyroblast the Paradigm Shift rather than trying to hit the Oracle. But if they play a land first, then it can be a bit different. Because if they play the land first, we know they won't have a Cavern. It's going to be a Teferi. A Murktide Regent. Counter target spell if it's blue, please. Okay, so this might just be trying to get through our removal and stuff. This also wipes their graveyard to make Paradigm Shift a lot better. But we can't just let them have a Murktide Regent, because then we lose to that pretty quick time. We are a lightning bolt away from winning the game. I think I will Ponder here. Find a Wasteland, we can take out Tundra. We don't need this. We find a lightning bolt, we can win the game. I like having the Daze. It could be useful. The Wasteland kind of does the same thing as the Daze in some respects. So what would I be looking for here instead? Force of Will doesn't play. We just need to get through 1 turn cycle. So we're either looking for a Lightning Bolt, of which we only have 2 left in the deck, if I remember rightly. We boarded a couple out. Yeah, we boarded 2 out. So we're either shuffling looking for a 2 of, or we can just take our Wasteland / Daze here and try and make our opponent struggle a bit more. I think I want the Wasteland here rather than the Daze. Which makes it very hard for our opponent to remove our creatures if they're on a defensive line. So probably have to go for it this turn, and they're only at 3 life. They could go and fetch a Plains and kill our creature, but they did not. They've got 5 cards in hand. We know one of the cards is Paradigm Shift. They would need land, shift, Oracle to win here. They're at 2. A Thought Lash. I would like to counter target blue spell, please. This is for the ball game. I don't mind. Alright, our opponent's just scooping it up. I think we probably keep that Daze. Obviously, we don't know if this is resolving, but our opponent scooped, so we didn't have to make that decision. But it's always interesting to think about. Alright, our sideboarding was pretty good there. Red blasts are bananas against the virtually mono blue deck, as it turns out. Alright, let's just go again. Okay, we'll keep this one. We've got 2 pieces of counter magic, and we get to do quite a bit of sculpting with our Dragon's Rage Channeler early doors, so we can hopefully find some more land and disruption, and hopefully a little bit more pressure. A single creature is unlikely to cut it against our opponent's deck. We have a lot of cantrips, so finding a single source of Plowshare shouldn't be the most difficult thing for them, and they might have something like a Prismatic Ending that they've brought in as well for this matchup, or a Path to Exile. Let's get the Channeler going. Bauble. A Lightning Bolt. That's kind of not great here. I think we put that into the graveyard. Play another one. Get some more action going. A Questing Druid. This is kind of a hard thing. Creature's like not an easy type to get into the graveyard. This would just leave us needing a land. Let's see what opponents get. Next turn an island. Okay. We've got enough stuff in our hand to be busy with, so I'm going to wait to see what they draw after they've done their draw step, so we can get more information about their hand rather than just getting immediate cards, because we already have pretty much all the action we're ever going to use on our opponent's turn. Now arguably we could have a different blue card to pitch, but I'm trading that potential blue card. Okay, we drew a blue card anyway. I was trading that in for the ability to have more information about our opponent's hand, so we know what we're working against, which I prefer. Alright, so they have a Murktide Regent. Okay. They're a long way off of that being a thing they get to do anything with. A Brainstorm. It is awkward, where if I want to cast a red spell, which I very much do, we have to Brainstorm off of this island. Because what are the things we're looking for here? It is Pyroblast, so I think we are supposed to play the island and Brainstorm off of it, which is an unusual play, but it makes sense given the context of this game. Nope, spin that off. We're just trying to power out a big Murktide in the near future, and ideally one that doesn't take away our Dragon's Rage Channeler's power, if we can finally put some power into that guy. Okay, but we did find the fetch land, so we would have been okay. Obviously we didn't know that at the time. So what do I want here? I don't really want to go shields down to make these Delvers work, but we also kind of need to make our Delvers work. They're not gonna flip our Delvers very effectively here, are we? Because I don't. So if we put back Force of Will or Daze and our opponent just tries to kill us next turn and we have less interaction, we can feel really bad about that one. I think I put back 2 Delvers and draw one of the Delvers next turn. Would I rather pitch a Delver or a Borrower? I think I'd rather pitch a Delver than a Borrower here, actually. So I'll put the Borrower on top with the intention of pitching this Delver. I don't want to pitch the Murktide. So we could like jam this Delver right now, but it's not flipping next turn. So I think it's just fine to do this. If we'd have just Brainstormed off the Volcanic Island and we hit the fetch land, we play the fetch land, our Dragon's Rage Channeler cracks in for 3, we can sculpt off that Brainstorm a lot better. That does go well for us. But if we just hit Pyroblast but no lands, then the play we did, maybe we're taking the lower floor play there, where we're just trying not to lose, which I think is fine given the power of our deck. So we're going to draw another Delver here. Sorry, not Delver, the Borrower, isn't it? Sorry, the Delver's underneath the Borrower. So we play the Misty Rainforest, that can shuffle away. Do I want to have access to this Questing Druid at end step? Like, we're definitely cracking this now because this gives us +2 damage. I think we're getting another red source because we want to be able to cast our Red Blast in our deck. And casting the backside of the Druid doesn't seem that relevant. I think I will deploy a Delver off of the island here. We've got Force of Will and Daze, and we could hit another one off of the Questing Druid. So you can still play the alternative costs even. Alright, we've got some movement there from our opponent. They've only done 1 Ponder this game. We not doing anything else? Let's seek the beast. This is our only way of playing the guy. I guess we leave this on top. A Pyroblast. Brainstorm. Sure, I've got that. I will deploy this land, I suppose. I will attack. So I could deploy the Druid for lethal, but we don't need to do that because we can deploy the Borrower for lethal. So I think I'm just going to sit back here and have access to more mana to play around things like Flusterstorm or to cast a Brainstorm in order to get more resources if we're fighting deeper. Because this is the turn our opponent has to try and combo. They should crack that fetch land first. There we go. Because otherwise we can wait for them to crack it and then Daze. Because we've seen Flusterstorm out of their deck already when they milled it over. Just a Murktide Regent. It's just a 4/4. It's really not that burdensome to us, is it? Well, I'm going to cast a Brainstorm in response here. I don't want to ponder for now. Just see more cards. But we could just... Force of Negation, okay. I feel pretty confident now that I can just Force of Will this and then Daze it, play the Borrower and win the game. Oh, they have a Force of Will, do they? Intriguing. I've gone to 7. So now, if we Force of Will this, they're clearly holding open a Pyroblast. Not a Pyroblast, a Flusterstorm. We could just hard cast this Force of Negation here. It means we don't win next turn, which is annoying. Okay, they didn't fight with a Flusterstorm, so we still have access to a Daze. We're going to put our opponent to 1 here. So Force of Will be off for them on the next turn. I just want to keep up all my mana here so I can play around Flusterstorm as best possible. We've got the Borrower to bounce some stuff as well. Defense Grid. Okay. We can beat that because we have 4 mana up. A Paradigm Shift. Okay. So we have the Daze for the Oracle here. They got no cards in hand, so this should work. All right. We got the round. I really like the Last Gordon decks. I'll try and play them at some point again in the coming month. All right, let's go to round 2. This hand is relying on this Brainstorm to find us something, but we can rely on Brainstorm. It's a reliable and powerful Magic the Gathering card. We might have to fire it off earlier than expected if our opponent is showing us Orcish Bowmaster mana, which they are because they are a black blue deck. So we probably need to fire off our Brainstorm. We could also just send in the Wastelands. I'm not opposed to doing this. Setting our opponent back. It's a little bit sketchy doing this when we don't have an island in play for our Dazes. Polluted Delta. Okay. So our opponent looks like they're going to be doing an Entomb in our end step. That would be my guess here. Kraken Fetch could just be a Surveil land here. It is a Surveil land. So there's an argument for us to fire off a Brainstorm now before Orcish Bowmasters comes down. But I'm going to hold off for a sec. A Wasteland. So fire off this Wasteland. We get to cast a Brainstorm. If our opponent fights over this, we can Daze and save our island. Okay, it's just a bunch of useful cards. Maybe Borrower is the least useful for now. So we can't just Wasteland our opponent because they could cast an Entomb. Okay, so now we can just Wasteland our opponent if we want to. It would be better to get this Dragon's Rage Channeler up and running, I think, though. So we've got 2 types at the moment. We've got Ponder, which can be the 3rd next turn. We're just looking for a creature or a Bauble. Orcish Bowmasters. I would like to Daze this, please. Let's see what our Surveil is here. It's a Delver, so we can put this into our graveyard. This gives us Delirium. No, it doesn't. Right, we're still missing 1 type. We need this Ponder. That's what we were calculating. So it means you probably have to fire off this in the Daze. Right, no Bowmasters. Good. I think this means we're supposed to cast a Ponder before playing this Dragon's Rage Channeler here. Because we just need to guarantee that this Channeler doesn't get pinged off by another Bowmasters. Do I want this Delver? It's just pressure, isn't it? That's fine. Unholy Heat, Mishra's Bauble. So if we go Unholy Heat, Delver of Secrets, Mishra's Bauble. We can save this for next turn to get double Surveil if we want to, and we can choose if we want the Unholy Heat, depending on what our opponent does. And we've exposed our Tropical Island. It is the only green source on our deck. but only cast the back side of 2 spells that are also fine to cast the front side for. Whereas if we expose our red source, then we might not be able to cast a lot of our spells like Channelers and Bolts and Unholy Heats. I do like Delver decks. There's so many little decisions. It really feels like you're playing actual Magic. Okay, they milled off an Archon of Cruelty. So our opponent is playing a Reanimator deck. So now we see the punish for not playing the Dragon's Rage... not playing the Volcanic Island. We don't get to Wasteland now, which might be a thing we want to do. So Unholy Heat is not going to cut it versus the Archon of Cruelty. I think I want to take our opponent off of black mana. And we'll play this. We know the top card flips the Delver, but we also know it's not a very useful card. So I'm likely to bin it off and see if we can draw into a Daze or something. Our opponent might Daze here to protect their undersea sewers. But then that's another turn where they don't have black mana, which is still fine for us. So we try and use this to flip the Delver, but we need to draw another card now. So I'm going to see what our opponent's working with. Troll of Khazad-dûm. So that could just find them a swamp anyway. I think it's still worth wastelanding our opponent. It is awkward, but that's a swamp they have to spend mana on, so if they're trying to cast something like an Animate Dead, then they won't be able to do that, or if they were setting up for a Metamorphosis Fanatic as a line, that's the thing they didn't get to do either. Alright, so they had a spell here. We get Reanimated on. We are. Okay. Archon of Cruelty. I think we actually lose a Channeler here, because at least the Delver doesn't have to attack into it. Okay. We could have kept the fetch land. It doesn't really matter that much here, though. The reports of Blue-Black Reanimator's demise were greatly exaggerated. Force of Will, right on time. So I play this, they attack. I don't see how we're winning this game, actually. Let's just go to game 2. Okay, Grafdigger's Cave ×2, get in. Pyroblast, reasonable, but not incredible. The thing we're scared about is the black spells, though, isn't it? So we're kind of more into Force of Negation is what's scaring us. To deal with the things that are scaring us. Daze on the play feels good. I don't think we need Unholy Heat. It can answer an Archon, but I think the plan is to not let the Archon get into play in the first place. Bolts for the Bowmasters makes sense. We can probably board out a Preordain, because we want to have the most amount of time to leverage all these things. And maybe just a Questing Druid. How do I feel about Wastelands in this matchup? They're not great, are they? Let's keep an... Do I want a Preordain or an Unholy Heat? Let's keep an Unholy Heat in for Bowmasters. Like, yes, we could cheese our opponent and win a game with Wastelands, but they play on basics quite often. Right, we've got some blue spells. Good old-fashioned Delver of Secrets hand. No cantripping or sculpting, but we do have some of the tools we want. Alright, so this looks like an Entomb line, which means you want to hold open mana for the purposes of playing around Daze. I'm going to fetch now, so there's no awkward timings. When we like crack a fetch, and then they can Daze us. Make another friend. I apologise for using the new art and not the classic art for these ones. But it is what it is. Alright, so we have Lightning Bolts, which we can point in our opponent's dome and get this Murktide on the way, but we want to have Murktide as a blue card for now. We're hoping to just burn our opponent out. That is a Force of Will target if ever I saw one. No thank you, Entomb. Alright. But if they have Entomb Reanimate again, then we could be in some trouble. Blue-black and Orcish Bowmasters. Sure, you can ping down my poor little Delver of Secrets. We don't need to ping this now, actually. We can do it on our turn. Play around the Daze. And Wasteland. Do we even need to... While we don't have any draw effects, I don't even think we need to hit the Bowmasters there. Because we have got quite the clock going here. Our opponent is on effectively, what, 8 life? We can burst them down with some lightning bolts. Do I want to wasteland our opponent here? I don't feel my wastelanding is the best here. But it does stop our opponent from multi-spelling, so I think we will wasteland. It's fine. If it slows our opponent down, that's all we need, because we've got the superior pressure here. We can just take some damage from these Orc Army tokens and not really care. A Brainstorm, not a bad one. Play another one I'm going to see. I'm going to bash us for 2. But if we just keep trading 3 damage for 2 damage and we're already ahead in the race, that is A-okay with me. Another Delver of Secrets. Fatal push, sure. Holding up that lightning bolt. So if we can fit this Delver, we're still winning this race. Metamorphosis Fanatic. Yikes. That is a large and in charge customer. So we're kind of seeing the downside of being a Delver deck here, where our opponent is doing some similar stuff, but they also have like more comborific stuff, and that's how they're beating us. They're just sort of going over the top of us, whilst also having, you know, your Brainstorms, your Dazes, all that sort of jazz. Also glad we didn't blow up the York army, because it would have come back with lifelink. Not that matters too much, but it would have pinged down another guy and done some awkward stuff. We can kill this Metamorphosis Fanatic, but at what price? If we flip the Delver though, we're still winning this race. Lightning Bolt. So we could attack for 3, attack for 3, and put our opponent to 11. Then they go up to 15. Then, yeah, we do have to kill this Fanatic. But the problem is, we are absolutely blown out by a Daze, but I don't think we have a choice here. I hate this so much. So there's an argument to wait and do this on our opponent's turn, so they don't miracle another one. But the problem with doing that, alright, there's a Daze. I don't think we win now. That's not true. We could draw a Murktide. But if we wait till our opponent's turn, they have more mana. So it's kind of like but they put us in an awkward spot there. I think having 1 mana must counter spells like Entomb in your tempo deck is not the healthiest thing in the world. Okay, I need to be a Murktide this turn, really, didn't it? I think we can... How are we skipping this? We can trade off here. Alright, we'll give it one more draw step. Can we find the Murktide? There's no point attacking here. Maybe we're not supposed to attack with the Insectile Aberration last turn. That's probably a tighter line. I don't think it matters here. So we can try and kill this and then have nothing. I don't think that is a good way to play the game. I think the correct way to play the game is stick a Murktide and have a good time with it. I could lightning bolt this Bowmasters, which I think I will do at end step. Just to have less bodies for us to have to worry about blocking. Is it Murktide? It's not Murktide. Still only a 1-1. We can double block and kill the Fanatic, which is what we have to do. Well, we can only do that or we can chump block. I think if we double block it, we're susceptible to get blown out, but this game is already kind of snowballed away that we need to try and hit some fortune, I think. Alright, let's do this. Are they going to cast a Reanimate on it and put us in the bin? If it's an Animate dead, we can at least Daze it, though. So this Reanimates, makes a Bowmaster, pings us to 1. Even if we get the Murktide Regent to block the Fanatic, it's not enough. Yep, I think the blue-black Reanimator deck might still be the best tempo deck, you know. Awkward. Alright, let's go to round 3. Alright, this hand looks good to me. Got some pressure. I think I'm actually going to lead off on the Delver off of the Trop. And then we can not get wastelanded and play our Channeler and Ponder on the same turn. You get some immediate value out of it. And the Delver is possible to attack for 3 on turn 2. The Channeler is almost certainly not attacking for 3 on turn 2. Now, it is possible. You know, we could find a nice string of things. But statistically, I think it's not likely to. Because we're almost certainly playing the Delver on turn 2 if we play the Channeler on turn 1. Right, Delver of Secrets. Out you go. An Underground Sea, you say? I'll reveal a Force of Will. Happy to have that. Let's crack in with the Insectile Aberration. So part of the reason I dislike Entomb being a card that we have to play around is I can't cast this Ponder now because I can't play around Entomb Daze. Okay, our opponent has decided for us. They know we have a Force of Will here. Okay, so now we can play the Ponder. That was weird to do it. And I guess they didn't want us to get a trigger. But, you know, they paid 1 mana to make us discard 2 cards. Do I want a Ponder? I think I do want a Ponder for next turn. Oh, I don't really want these cards, though. Alright, any order and shuffle. Oh, Lightning Bolt. Okay. Maybe we take a Ponder and a land, and that's okay. From that other one we had, from the first Ponder. But I feel we need to find access to Dazes and Force of Wills here, because the way we lose this game is via Entomb shenanigans. So we just have to index heavily into finding things that deal with that. And Orcish Bowmasters. Goodbye, Dragon's Rage Channeler. This makes our next Channeler more likely to pop off, though. Because we now have a creature type in, so we just need a land. And we're good to go. A Lightning Bolt. Okay, I think we're in a similar position we were in that previous game, where it's a case of we can just start Lightning Bolt on our opponent's face. We don't need to answer the Bowmasters until it becomes a thing we have to answer, if that makes sense. If we get our opponent's life total low enough, the actual card Reanimate no longer works. If we blow this up, our opponent Metamorphosis Fanatics it, then we're in trouble. There's just so many lines that our opponent has access to with their deck that is quite burdensome. I think Metamorphosis Fanatic is the big, I don't want to say linchpin, but it's a really important part of how the deck should be operating now. Because it gives you that mid-rangey threat. Sure, it's not a Psychic Frog, but it's a 2-mana 4/4 lifelink. That's pretty reasonable as a tempo threat goes. And sometimes he gets to do absurdly busted stuff as well. Oh no. I'm a fan of this. Don't wasteland my red source. This time I will bolt the Bowmasters because we need to cantrip into some more lands. Trade a bit of damage here, that's fine. Ponder from our opponent. Yep. Yeah, so this is an interesting matchup in a lot of ways because what happens is our opponent has some stuff that we can answer with like a Grafdigger's Cage, and it really answers the nice side of the scary side of their deck quite easily. The problem with that is, if we don't have the Grafdigger's Cage, they've got a bunch of cards that we need to be expending 2 cards, like Force of Will type stuff, to deal with. I will Wasteland our opponent, just slow this game down whilst we're winning the damage race. If they fail push here, I think we probably... I don't want to say we lose, but we're already behind on cards because we had to Force of Will and Entomb. Just a little 1-mana him to Turret from our opponent there. They got some value off of their Orcish Bowmasters. He's spending this mana on a Brainstorm. Alright, see, this is why Wastelands feel so bad in this matchup as well. So they get to ignore our mana denial plan a lot of the time because they can run on basic quite easily. They've got a big plan we have to respect that forces us to keep in our forces that end up being horrible 2-for-1s against us. And, you know, sometimes they just have it and they can just... They only need to do one thing. If they do one thing, which is the reanimating one of their big guys, we lose. And it's really awkward. Maybe until we'll get banned next time around. Who knows? Because that's the real thing that makes this deck egregious to me. But I know many of you in the comments would be like, oh, please don't ban Entomb. And, you know, that's an opinion you're entitled to have. I disagree with it, but, you know, it's just an opinion about a card game. It's not the end of the world, is it? Ponder from our opponent. We already know they've got a land here. They did get the Undercity Sewers. So it kind of sets them up for another Wasteland to be good. Alright, they have an Underground Sea as well. They did not shuffle off the Ponder. So if we connect with this Delver, we shut off Reanimate on any big scary monsters. Daze, not really the one we're after. Oh dear, oh dear. A Wasteland. An Animate Dead. Well, I guess I want to save my land from the Wasteland over there. Interesting. They didn't pay. They would rather keep their Wasteland up. That is an unexpected turn of events. So I want to keep this land so if we draw a Ponder, we at least have a chance to Ponder. Another Daze. This puts us in a horrible spot, doesn't it? I think we are supposed to put out the Trop. Not a fan of this. I probably didn't Wasteland it last time. Let's see if they do this time. They're just cycling another Troll. So this time they have loads of mana, so this Daze is very unlikely to matter. But the Troll is not good enough to beat what we have right now. So I go to second main, so my mana burns off. So no Spell Pierces or anything. But they make a guy, we attack them for 3, then they attack us for 7, then we attack them for lethal. So they need to find an answer for our Delver. Alright, we're pondering. So they might not be reanimating anything this turn. Intriguing. Actual factual reanimate is off. Hopefully there's some number of them stranded in our opponent's hand right now. Animate Dead on our Dragon's Rage Channeler. Giving them a 2/3 flyer that has to attack each combat if able. So we let it attack and then we crack back. This does give our opponent some pretty scary surveil stuff though. Because now they can like cast Ponders and Brainstorms and maybe put some Archon of Cruelties into the graveyard. If they have an Animate Dead, will go very poorly for us. Okay, they're being offered Reanimate. Makes sense. Card is unplayable for them right now. I did not shuffle off that Ponder. Undercity Sewers, we putting a big monster in the bin? No. So the DRC has to attack. We get to bash for 3, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Well, 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 it's a petty theft. So we just need to draw a Volcanic Island and just start doming our opponent with these lightning bolts, I think. Polluted Delta, that counts. Okay, I'm not going to play out this Delver. Just going to try and dome our opponent twice. Just going to fetch that Volk. We've got Bolt with Daze back up. I don't think the Daze is going to matter here. Have you got a Daze opponent? An Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. Anything else? A Daze. They do have a Daze. Not ideal. Draw a land. We did not draw a land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're not dead yet. I think our opponent is going to play a fetch land anytime soon. So if we'd have played the Delver, it would have flipped, but it might have got dazed anyway. A Brainstorm, sure. There's an argument to daze this, just to make sure that we keep our Volcanic Island for next turn. But if our opponent finishes off with an Entomb or a Fatal Push here, I want to be able to daze it. Maybe it's just supposed to prioritize having the Volcanic Island. Getting Wastelanded. No, we're not getting Wastelanded. That's pretty big news for us. We're not dead to what's on board right now. If our Delver flips, we can win. I believe they should attack with their Bowmasters here. So I don't think we're taking that trade. I guess it doesn't really matter for their clock too much. So they have a Brazen Borrower. If they crack a fetch down, we can try and kill them. I think the play here is bounce their Dragon's Rage Channeler. Or see if they crack a fetch down and we get to bolt them. What are you attacking with? A bunch of things. Let's see if we can get our own Dragon's Rage Channeler back, shall we? A Force of Will. That puts our opponent to a very precariously low life total, doesn't it? And then we can Lightning Bolt with double Daze back up next turn. I think that works. We lose to an Orcish Bowmasters, I think. But such is the nature of the beast. How are Bowmasters? They should play it now. Right, they're brainstorming, looking for one. They've got no cards in hand. After this, while the brainstorm is on the stack, sorry. So they should have one card in hand after the brainstorm resolves. If it's Bowmasters, we can beat it with this double Daze because they've tapped. So I think we get over the line here. It's going to be tight, but I think we do just about manage it. Reanimate, targeting Orcish Bowmasters. That is specifically a thing that we can't beat here. That is so frustrating. Maybe our opponent will forget to pay. That is really annoying though. Can't believe that Reanimate on 3 life is coming in clutch here. Ugh. Very awkward. So, we want Grafdigger's Cages. And we're probably interested in some Force of Negations. Or at least it's something on our radar. These Wastelands are bad for the most part. We could just take them all out, in fact. I don't really want to be playing a Wasteland game here. Alright. Oh, that was frustrating though. I thought we'd managed to get through. It was just the Reanimate was the only card I think in their deck that wins them the game there. We had the Orcish Bowmasters itself covered. Yeah, this blue-black Tempo Reanimator deck is still very, very strong. Like, yes, it took a hit with the Psychic Frog, but a lot of the decks we're trying to fight against it were also Psychic Frog decks, like the Esper deck and stuff. Yeah, I'll keep this DRC backed up by some Dazes and Baubles, and a nice Brainstorm to have a bit more to work with on the following turn. We want to get these Baubles out early so that we don't end up getting jammed up by Orcish Bowmaster. Volcanic, DRC, Bauble, a Lightning Bolt. I think we'll put that into the graveyard for now. Just start stacking this up. Put in this Bauble. Let's have another little look. See if we can stack that graveyard up nicely. I kind of don't really want this Force of Will. We've got these Dazes for the early turns. I just want to find a Grafdigger's Cage, really. Let's see what you're working with on your turn. The fact that we've put a Force of in the graveyard probably makes our opponent think we have counter magic. Alright, they got a Troll. We'll pop this other Bauble in the near future. We just want to be able to see more cards of what our opponent's up to. Swamp. This feels like they're going to be cycling this Troll. I will just take my free card here, whilst Bowmasters is not a thing to worry about. This Brainstorm, sure. I imagine this is getting shuffled away when they cycle the Troll for their blue source. Bauble. Let's just keep putting stuff in the graveyard and making our Murktide early and large. Let's get our 1 point of damage in. Try and pressure our opponent early with a large friend. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, Dragon's Rage Channeler, you're not going to be delirious for a while. Alright, I will Daze this. Maybe we will be delirious very soon. Put it into your graveyard. That's a land. You're going to pay here. They are. I will defend this. This is a card that's going to run away with the game quite quickly. This can go into your graveyard. Okay, we're going to have a delirious Dragon's Rage Channeler. I would like more cards in our opponent's turn here. It's the Brainstorm we already knew about. We've got 9 power in play, so a nice 2-turn clock that we've established by turn 2. That's kind of wild. Feels almost combo-tastic. Alright, this Daze is possibly useful. I wonder what removal spells they have specifically for Murktide Regent. Could be like Shoot the Sheriff. Brainstorm we knew about. They have a Troll of Khazad-dûm to shuffle after this. But we get to untap, have Brainstorm and Daze available. We probably just play the Trop next turn, holding up Brainstorm, because that way we can Daze with mana to pay around an opposing Daze if there's a really scary play that we need to interact with and make sure they don't have the interaction to clap back as well. Because now they have an island in play, they could have access to Daze. There is an Entomb. We do not have the ability to interfere with this. Not a fan of that one. An Archon of Cruelty. Okay. A Ponder. Ponder sees 4 cards, or 5 cards. But I think what we're going to do here is float the mana and try and Daze something. And if that doesn't work, then we Brainstorm into action. I think that is the most likely way of us to get where we need to go. But yeah, we made 9 power on turn 2, and I think we might lose this game, which is kind of wild. We did have to double Daze to protect our Murktide, which has left us a little bit open to what our opponent has. But I think it is right just to get the big thing, because if we give our opponent time, they will assemble an Archon of Cruelty, and we will lose to it. Okay. So we're going to go for... Daze in this doesn't feel the most useful right now. I'm going to Brainstorm. Do not want this Ponder. Okay, we have basically nothing here. If we Daze this, we at least mill one of those lands off the top. But then we don't have a clapback for what our opponent's doing. And we're down a land. Yeah, I don't think we get to do that. Okay. So we lose our DRC here. And I'll discard probably the Brainstorm here. The alternative for how we play this game is to just let them counter the Murktide Regent and just sit back with these Dazes and hope that our Dragon's Rage Channeler does enough. Maybe that is an okay way of doing it. But at the time, the Dragon's Rage Channeler was a 1-1 with no cards in graveyard. So it's not a particularly fast clock. And if we give our opponent enough time, they will assemble the combo and reanimate on our Dragon's Rage Channeler. I don't want them to have a Dragon's Rage Channeler here. What do we need to draw? We need to ponder into a creature so that we can threaten to block this. We have to let the Channeler resolve here. Yeah, so we need to like ponder into something that we can sacrifice. Because then if they attack with the Archon, they lose the Archon. So ponder, do your best. Grafdigger's Cage, thanks for playing. Any order in shuffle? Nope. Okay. So we're going to lose this guy. We may as well crash for a little bit damages. Yeah, this is horrible. This dies as soon as they attack, so we are attacking this turn. They take 6, so at least maybe like a Brainstorm into a flurry of bolts does something. but they will immediately gain 3, so we're only really hitting them down to 8 this turn. I don't believe the days of not running main deck Graveyard Hate are over yet. Like Delver decks are running now Spell Bombs and stuff, and sometimes even Grafdigger's Cages in the main for a while when they were trying to compete in the Psychic Frog world. And honestly, I think if you have something that you can play for Graveyard Hate right now that isn't terrible, it's just like a main deck card, then it's probably worth having still. Okay. We are falling behind. Ghost Vacuum. That's a weird one to board in against us. No, we got nothing. Okay, we are 0-2 against the Blue Black Reanimator matchup. Kind of worrying that. Alright, let's go to round 4. Okay. This is a bit of a different hand to some of the ones we've had so far in this league. This is going to be a sort of slower hand in theory. But we do have a game plan. So we've got some card advantage. We've got a nice big Haymaker. We've got some interaction here. So our opponent's just playing a basic Plains. I think that because we've drawn this island, I'm going to play the island out. I was debating playing out the fetch land first, because the fetch land gives us access to a turn where we don't get wastelanded. And then hopefully on the second turn we cast a Brainstorm and then go. Okay, Plains into Lauren revealed. This is giving me some blue-white control vibes. And I think I'd much rather be on the blue-white control side of this matchup, generally speaking, because their deck is just removal spells. And because we just have a fair plan, it's relatively easy for them to curtail what we're doing. Whereas when it comes to decks like Nadu and stuff, the control decks just kind of get stuffed by them. Because you can't really interact with Nadu in a fair way a lot of the time. I don't think we're brainstorming here. Now we're brainstorming, it's our turn. Let's go, let's find something wonderful. I've got a plan we're working towards, but maybe this Murktide is just too far down the line of things we want. Okay, if we want the Murktide, we can draw it. We do need like a pretty high density of threats, I imagine, for this matchup. So maybe I will draw the Murktide. Okay, so Jeskai control. We've got a lot of forces, which aren't great, but our opponent has several Haymakers, and even the Jeskai control decks are kind of combo-y these days. They tend to have the Narset wheel stuff. Daze Undoing, I think it is. They tend to throw that in there. Alright, just a slow game so far. Plains. They have Supreme Verdict mana. Narset, Parter of Veils. This is something I would like to counter. I think I'm going to prioritise keeping my threats in hand. Also, if this does resolve, our Brainstorm's not going to work anyway. Library is a land. I don't hate guaranteeing a land under a Questing Druid. Let's seek the beast. Okay, I think our opponent's going to get lightning bolted to the face this turn. Let's go and get ourselves the Trop here. I think we're going to go for the value play rather than trying to wasteland our opponent immediately. Let's play our land. Play this Questing Druid. And I will lightning bolt you. They might just plow this in response, so we only gain 1 life. There it is. Am I protecting this card? I do not believe I am. I would protect something like a Murktide, because a Murktide is going to be like a 3-turn clock most of the time. Whereas a Questing Druid is going to need a little bit more juice put into it before it can win the game in short amounts like that. Also, if they are a 4th Year Lingus deck, which they almost certainly are, it's a lot easier to fog a Questing Druid than it is to fog a flying blocker, flying attacker. If we have to Force of Will, we probably pitch the Borrower at this point so that we have access to the Murktide. I think that's our big game here. Obviously gets undone by removal quite easily. I think our opponent's in a relatively comfortable spot. Don't mind having this little Delver. Go to combat. I'll Wasteland this now. I will not play the Murktide Regent out just yet. I want this Delver of Secrets to attract some removal. Do they have another Volcanic Island? Do they even need red mana right now? Probably not. I think if they're an energy build, we probably would have seen some energy by now as well. So like Wrath of the Skies, Tune the Narrative, that sort of jam. Alright, we're going to get some removal on our Delver. It's going to be a pending. That's annoying because that's not a thing. That's not a thing that can hit our Murktide, so it isn't absorbing removal for our big Haymaker. I think our end step involves playing this Brazen Borrower as an attacker. I'll play this land out so we have Hardcast Force of Will if we want it. Right, I'm just going to sit on this Hardcast Force of Will. Our opponent very quickly in this game fetched Supreme Verdict mana, so it feels like they're telegraphing they have access to that to me. So if it eats this, then we can untap and play a Murktide. But if they go for some kind of like Teferi or some sort of scary Narset type stuff. Alright. I think we allow that one. Okay, I would like to find a blue source. A blue card this turn. We did find a blue card this turn. We could Brainstorm first, but what would we be looking for? It would make our Murktide slightly bigger. 1, 2, 3. So I have a Murktide that's going to be 6. If we find one more card here, the Murktide becomes... I guess we could just lightning bolt our opponent, couldn't we? Let's just do that. Now let's make a big friend. I will Force of Will to protect this creature. We've gone through 2 of their plows. If they do still have that Supreme Verdict that I've been worried about this whole game, then it certainly sucks for us. But this plus a lightning bolt is lethal. Ponder is fine. There is an argument to try and hit this so they can't Supreme Verdict. But we also have to worry about all the spot removal our opponent plays. Things like Teferi, some more Swords to Plowshares, that sort of jam. They shuffle their library off that Ponder. It's good news for us. Blue, blue, white, white. They did have a Supreme Verdict. Yeah, that sucks for us. I could Brainstorm now, but the problem with doing that is we have less cards to put back. So we may as well untap and then do it. Alright, Brainstorm. We need you. A Brazen Borrower is a threat. I will have my Brazen Borrower with Force of Will Daze backup. There is an argument to keep this this Bauble. If we keep the Bauble, that's an artifact, so we're more likely to have a Delirious Channeler. And it is a redraw anyway. We don't want 2 though, because then we end up slow tripping too much. But just 1 I think is fine here. Hardcast Force of Will. Is this something that we try and protect here? I think it is. We don't get to Daze this one, sadly. But our opponent's resources are relatively low here. If they just have a plow, then sure. So draw this, we crack this, and go and get our Volcanic. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Oh, lordy. Maybe they'll cycle Lorien Revealed when they have enough mana to cast it. Unlikely, but, you know, could happen. Alright, Mishra's Bauble. You could draw us a Force of Will we could hardcast. It did not draw us a Force of Will. Alright, so just going to draw this plow, kill our guy. We've just got to hope their 2 cards in hand aren't something that lets them get some card advantage. So no Lorien Revealed or Narsets. Okay, we're just going to keep making guys. We're going to leave this card in hand so we can put it back with a Brainstorm. Prismatic Vista. I'm happy for our opponent to draw lands rather than spells. Mountain. Are we just getting Fortheolingus? That could be something that's been stuck in their hand for a while. Oh no. They're leaving 1 mana up to pay around Daze. Yeah. This is a lot. This is a 3-turn clock. But if we flip the Delver, we have a 2-turn clock. So we just need to fade our opponent having the right removal spells. They'll probably leave 1 night back. Yep. Okay. We take 6. They get the Monarch. There's only 1 plow left in their deck, so I'm not expecting to get plowed right now. Ponder. Yes, that's exactly what I want to draw. Yes, please. Let's ponder. Dragon's Rage Channeler is good. Unholy Heat, not so good. We're looking for Lightning Bolt, really. But we could just play the Channeler out. Well, we've got creature, artifact, land, instant, sorcery. So we don't want the Unholy Heat. Is there a way we can bin anything off here? Not really. I guess we could put the Tarn on top. Then the Unholy Heat. Then the DRC. Then we attack with this. We get the Monarch. And then we use the Unholy Heat on one of their guys to mill off the Scalding Tarn. And then we have 2 lethal threats for next turn. That seems like a reasonable strategy here. Now if they do an attack with not many creatures, then maybe we get to blow them out with the Unholy Heat so they don't get the Monarch back. Narset, Parter of Veils. Immediate activation makes sense. Let's see what they find. So now we have a pretty good target for this Unholy Heat in the Narset. So we've left open white, white, blue, blue for Prismatic for Supreme Verdict, whilst also having the most amount of blue pips available to then cast other cantrips. So this suggests to me that our opponent doesn't have the answer right now. Wrath the Skies. Okay, that is obviously an awkward one for our opponent. So they just attack with everything, don't they? And that sucks for us, right? The Narset also shuts down us having the Monarch. It's going to bash us for a bunch here. Then you get the Monarch back. Sorry to see you go, Monarch. And then they're going to Wrath the Skies away our 2 guys because they have to do that or they lose a game. We'll hit the Narset and we'll mill off this land that we don't want. Goodbye to all the creatures. Can we draw a lightning bolt? We did not draw a lightning bolt. We did draw a lethal threat for the next turn though. How many lightning bolts have we used? Just the 1 so far, isn't it? 2, okay. So we're halfway through our deck and we've used 2 lightning bolts. Ponder from our opponent, sure. They do have some endings in their deck. They have more Supreme Verdicts, presumably more Wrath of the Skies. I don't know if they're running lots of energy stuff. I think they might just be running like 1 or 2 Wrath of the Skies as a flexible Wrath. They did not shuffle off that Ponder, which means they have an answer to our Channeler. 3 mana. Teferi. Okay. Not the best answer, to be honest. But they're taking the guaranteed seeing another turn line whilst they have the Monarch, which makes sense. Or do you have something else as well? A Narset and a Teferi. Okay. Just gets to clear the other cards from the Ponder. A Force of Will. Yeah, this is getting tougher. Our opponent is drawing an additional card every turn. We now know they have a Force of Will that almost certainly has the mana to do stuff with it. This Wasteland has 0 targets. Let's jam this Channeler. Are they going to Force of Will this one? Okay, so we can still draw lightning bolts. If they have a Mystic Sanctuary in their deck, they can then bring back the Fourth Wheel Lingus and basically just kill us the turn after. Or they can do it immediately, actually. They can Mystic Sanctuary and then Narset to pick it up and just fire it in for the world's best fireball. Alright, Narset. What are you going to find? A Ponder, okay. We are in a horrible spot where we can't really Ponder very effectively because of their Narset. Oh no. Do they just have the Fourth Wheel Lingus now? It's getting fireballed, paying around a Daze. This is 8 damage. So we could still win if we draw the lightning bolts. Okay, they already have the Monarch, so enough of that. Do we draw the lightning bolts? We can't even Ponder or Brainstorm into it because of Narset. We did not draw it. We lose. That was closer than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, a little bit awkward for us. So I would like some Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast here. I don't want things like Forces in this matchup. I would like some more threats we don't have access to anymore. Would I like something like a Hydroblast here? Not especially. Like, it counters just the 1 spell in Fourth Wheel Lingus. That is a really key spell. Lightning Bolt going to the face is going to be relevant this game, I would imagine. The Unholy Heats, they do clean the Planeswalkers up, so I think we probably have to keep those as well. If I want any of these things, it probably comes at the cost of Wastelands, which is fine. What would I like? Would I prefer Force of Will to a Wasteland in this matchup? I'll take 1 Force of Will. The Dazes aren't great here, because our opponent could play around them, but the idea is we put some pressure down early, so it's harder for them to play around it. We need to go way under our opponent, but just have like a little bit of reach to finish things off later on if needed. 1 drop, please. We have 1 drops. I will keep. I think it's an interesting choice what we do here. I think I'm going to play the Dragon's Rage Channeler now. I think I'm going to play a Delver now. And then next turn we can play the Channeler and the Delver and the Bauble and set up both of our Delvers next turn if they didn't flip. And then try and clock our opponent for 9. So if our opponent has like a pending on the first turn, it's spent on a Delver, not on a DRC, which is a higher prize. Even though they both kind of hit with the same amount of damage right now. I'd be amazed if our opponent doesn't have a removal spell in their hand. I just don't think their hand is keepable without a removal spell. But their deck is a lot of removal spells. Are they going to wait and see what this flips to and get some more information? Pyroblast. Okay, I would have liked to land here, but it is what it is. Dragon's Rage Channeler, out you come. Mishra's Bauble. A Lightning Bolt. I kind of want to land here. So I guess we put that one on the bottom. And I think we just need to draw some extra cards. Prismatic Ending. So we're going to lose our creature to that. Daze is not going to cut it. Right, another threat. Don't hate that. There is that Prismatic Ending we saw earlier. Not a land. Okay, I will continue to play threats. Get some action here. They got a Red Blast. They do. Yikes. Okay. I don't feel good about this one. At least we're only trading 1-for-1 resources at the moment. But as soon as our opponent gets some card advantage engines, like Narset just starts drawing cards. Lavinia. Okay, that's fine. That dies to an Unholy Heat. Tamiyo. Okay, we don't get to do anything about that right now. This will kill a Tamiyo if we want it to. We also have the Red Blast. I believe I want to try and find a land more than anything right now. Well, it is a land. I don't think we can keep these. So this means if we cast a spell with no mana, it gets countered, so we're not going to be playing the Mishra's Bauble until we can blow up the Lavinia. I feel we are somewhat behind right now. Our opponent has a card advantage engine, so they can just keep removing our creature, drawing a card, removing our creature, drawing a card. And we don't have an unfair line of attack right now, so we're not going to be able to beat what our opponent's doing for the most part. We didn't get the early damage we needed because they had a removal spell on 1 and 2. It's all just gone a bit awry for us. Rest in peace. Yeah, that's pretty good against our Dragon's Rage Channelers and Murktide Regents. This probably hoses our deck more than it hoses blue-black Reanimator in a lot of ways, which is quite funny. I guess we're casting a Brainstorm. Right, we found some lands finally. Get rid of this Mishra's Bauble that we can't cast. The Daze doesn't look good while Lavinia's in play, but we're planning on killing the Lavinia very soon. I guess we could just put a land on top and draw it next turn anyway. I think we use the Unholy Heat on this. So this turns our Daze back on. If we need to stop something big like a maxed out 4th Eolingus, although our opponent has been doing the non-maxed out 4th Eolinguses. I don't want to try and target our opponent's Tamiyo whilst they have any blue mana up, because that means they could just Brainstorm and counter our removal spell. We might get in situations where we can flash in a Borrower and block the Tamiyo and force them to do something. They're cracking a clue. If they find a land, they might just play it and crack a clue. A Brainstorm. Okay, so now we are flipping the Tamiyo. So now I can Pyroblast it onto the Planeswalker. But our opponent has just gassed back up. Right, they've still got one more card waiting. Alright, okay, they don't have that many cards left actually. They've only got 3 cards. Thinking about it. And we take this out, and then maybe we can win with whatever pieces are left. Destroy target permanent if it's blue. Get out of here. Okay, I'm going to Brainstorm now in case we find a threat that we can deploy, like a Delver of Secrets. More Red Blasts. I don't hate them. I don't really want this Bauble. I think the Daze's time has probably come and gone here. Okay, we can Red Blast a bunch of things. We might be getting a Trop unless we need to Red Blast. Because at least we can cast the guy. Triumph of St. Catherine. Okay, well that's going to get bounced soon. That is certainly going to be an annoyance for us. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could take the Daze and try and counter us on the way down. Realistically, that's probably the only way we can answer it. But is our opponent going to play into Daze when they've been playing around Daze for this entire set of matches? I don't think I can rely on my opponent to play badly like that. I think we need to... I don't know what we need to do here. Like a second lightning bolt and kill this, because then it goes away forever because they're in rest in peace. It's fine. Okay, so I guess we're on the bounce line. I will play the Scalding Tarn out because it gives us access to the red blast alongside our borrower. Not that we're necessarily going to need both blasts, but you never know. Sure, drawing some stuff. Do I take a hit for 5 here? Or if our opponent taps low enough, then we can just petty theft this. I got a red blast. I do indeed. At least we get to red blast there, Narset. Let's red blast and Narset. So now the dust is settled. Our opponent has no cards in hand, but they have a 5/5 lifelinker, and we have a 3 mana damage spell. This doesn't bode amazing for us, especially when a lot of our big plays are just not accessible via because of the rest in peace. This is exactly what I was just about to reference in terms of our big plays not being accessible. Okay. How many turns are we going to get hit by this Triumph? Can we draw that other lightning bolt we need? Or the Unholy Heat is fine too. Teferi, yeah, that's pretty strong. It's going to cycle it for a card. They do indeed. I think that's correct. Okay. We can take one more hit, but then all fetch lands are turned off. So obviously we draw a fetch land. Alright, deck. 4th Eorlingus. For just 1 horse. They have a Teferi, we can't interact. We are dead. Yeah, that did not feel great, to be honest. We are having a rough time of it today. We are only 1 and 3 going into the final round. I think our deck should be pretty good at preying on some of these like Nadu-y, combo-y style decks, so we can pressure and then just knock them off balance to get, and then, you know, that'd be okay. But maybe that's not even true either. I don't know. Rough time. Let's see if we can get a win. Okay, let's do some Dragon's Rage channeling. Tropical Island. Okay, maybe we get to test against some sort of Nadu today. Noble Hierarch, yeah. Certainly looking like we're on the Nadu train. I think we are supposed to get our channeler down before we bolt this. Let's see what we draw. Well, we've got these Dazes to rely on. So I'm going to get this channeler down. And then have Daze. Next turn have Bolt Daze. Hopefully get somewhere. So if they play a Nadu this turn, they have to tap out for it. Which means the Daze should be good. If this is a Green Sun Zenith. Oh, okay. Spring Heart Nantuko. Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't think this is where we point our Daze, though. Oh, they're copying the Noble Hierarch. Right, I'll play this. Island. I'll Preordain. Our creature's already getting through anyway. I don't think we need to try and hit Delirium this turn. I'll take a Brainstorm. Our opponent is going to crack this at end step. So then I'm going to Lightning Bolt it after they've cracked this. Right, I'm doing it now. I've still made a mistake here, haven't I? Yeah, we're going to lose our channeler here. That was so loose. Because they still get the 1/1, don't they? Because we're not actually getting rid of the guy, we're just getting rid of the Noble Hierarch. Yeah, that was just terrible from me. Force of Will. We don't have a way of drawing this immediately. But it's going to be a useful card, I would suspect. Yes, they get a 1/1 here, and they get to just trade with our channeler. We are making their Cradle worse by doing this, but yeah, there's not a play that we should have allowed our opponent to make here. The fatigue of recording all these extra games over Christmas so I can have a Christmas holiday whilst also having a cold is perhaps getting to me. Do I think these Dazes are going to do the work for us? There is a Cradle there. So this is the Nadu Elves build. We don't have additional removing the sideboard, but we do have access to Grafdigger's Cage, which is pretty darn tasty. So we're going to get bashed for 2, perhaps? Nothing. Okay, so our opponent's going to Chord of Calling this turn. Let's Brainstorm. Lots of forces. I guess we want them for now. Let's go and fetch this Volcanic. Play this Bauble. Have a look what our opponent's working with. I suspect they're going to try and shuffle. Okay, Birds of Paradise, that's fine. I don't mind you drawing that. We're getting corded here. I doubt these days are going to be anything other than blue cards to pitch to our force. But we could have had 3 damage this turn coming across. We'd have played better last turn. Draw a lightning bolt or something. A ponder. Okay, I don't mind the ponder. Right, we're lined up for a nice Murktide soon. There's a Birds of Paradise we knew about. Are they going to bash us this turn? Or are we getting another cord? Alright, no cord this turn. Go, Gadget, Ponder. Let's find us what we need. Questing Druid is not great, to be honest. It's just going to get, like, blocked by all this stuff. I think we can do better than that. Do we just want the Questing Druid to draw us some more gas, though? Alright. If we do this, then we can seek the beast in our opponent's turn, getting that ponder and that land anyway. And then we can get the Questing Druid down and at least make it so they can't attack as easily. I'm going to take a hit for, what, 3 this turn? But we get to roadblock this a little bit for next turn. And we just have to make sure we can force a will, like the Natural Order or a Zenith or whatever. Nomads and Core. I don't think we are killing that one with our force. I think we need to save that for like a cord or something. It can come back to bite us. Oh. I pressed the wrong pass priority button and now we don't have the Questing Druid cards. Great. What an absolute fumble. So it's kind of tough. Our library's a ponder. Let's cast this ponder. I like the Channeler, but I hate the other 2 cards. I can probably deal with drawing 1 land though. What are we hitting here? We hit this, they just kill whatever they want, so I think we just hit the guy that's improving their board position. So they're just getting 1 more token for the road. Yeah, we've made 2 mistakes this game. I'm not feeling good about myself right now. Okay. So Questing Druid into Channeler into Ponder is a pretty good turn. Got some beef ready to go. This is a lot of damage though. 6 damage, that's half our life tail. Every fetch land is like a big deal here as well. Do not want another land, certainly not fetch land. Delver of Secrets. We could play a Delver of Secrets, which can at least trade one of these guys. How much damage are we taking? We attack with everything. We block here and here. We take 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is a lot. I think we actually need the Delver here. I also want the Murktide for the next turn though, because the Murktide just gives us a big way of finishing them off. But I think we need to have the Delver here, as annoying as that is. It's like a removal spell, if we think of it that way. Costs us 1 life though, which is kind of savage. Imagine if we'd have played this game better. I think we could have won this one. We could have had a Dragon's Rage Channeler pecking away, and then this would have been alright. I think we were the reason. If we lose this game, it's because of me and my plays. And the deck did a good job. Allosaurus Shepherd. Well, well, well. Are we just dead to Natural Order? They don't have lots of elves, so we don't have to worry about this making everything huge. We are on 2. Our Dragon's Rage Channeler has to attack unless we draw a Murktide. So we can put 2 counters on our Questing Druid. So that gives us a 6/6. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We don't have enough to be lethal. If we block here and bolt this guy, we can't block with this is the problem. This has to attack. Okay. Yeah, the margins here are very thin. Birds of Paradise, don't care about that. They're going to attack with everything, or they're going to try and hold back their Allosaurus Shepherd. No attacking with everything. So we block 1, blow 1 up, and then we die. Yep, I made at least 2 significant misplays that game, which cost us. Alright. Sideboard-wise, I would like some Grafdigger's Cage, please. Consign to Memory is an interesting one. I don't think it's where I want to be. It does have some use for like hitting a Crater Hoof trigger or an Atraxa trigger, but we're trying to nail that with the Grafdigger's Cage, which I think is better anyway. We want to keep all of our red spells in. They look very good here. Dazes look pretty bad, so I'll take those out. I think we do have to keep in the forces, even though they can be a bit sketchy. Don't know. Not feeling our tools that much. I quite like having access to more removal in the sideboard when I play Delver decks. Do like a bit of rough tumble. Maybe that's good now. Like there's a lot of Nadu decks that are spamming a lot of mana dorks, and if you can sweep them all up, I think it's quite good. You can also sweep up Orcish Bowmasters. Island Ponder. I'll keep an Island Ponder. Dragon's Rage Channeler, I like. I don't really want to see 2 more lands though. Am I willing to throw this away just so we don't have to go through 2 more lands? Well, we don't have to go through 2 more lands. We go through 1 more land. Maybe we take the Wasteland here. So we can take out Dryad Arbors. We can take out like Tropical Islands or whatever. Savannas. We're unlikely to nail a Cradle with it, but trading 1 for 1 for like their mana and stuff is exactly what I want to be doing early on anyway. Whether it's Lightning Bolts or Wastelands, it's kind of the same deal. And they've shown us that they've just given us 2 Wasteland targets. This means that if we are Wastelanding right now, we have to draw the next land. But I think that's just the price we have to pay right now. I will hit the Dryad Arbor because they have ways of untapping it, like Quirion Ranger. Does mean that if we draw a Lightning Bolt, it's not going to be as powerful because we won't be able to use it as a sinkhole. I wonder if they get a basic forest here. Or they just go further into... Okay, so they're into Savannas. Sure. Ploughing our guy. Understood. And a Noble Hierarch. I think we are just going to Questing Druid here. Or Seek the Beast. Because this can find us some interaction. We could Wasteland, which keeps our opponent potentially off of the scary 4 mana plays. But our opponent's already played a Hierarch, so all we'll be doing is letting them continue playing to the board while we're falling behind. So I think we need to do something a little bit more proactive. Get some more cards. And try and form our own game plan here. Instead of playing catch-up. Attack for 1, please. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to see. So we are rewarded for taking that line. Let's seek those beasties. Brazen Borrower. Not the most exciting thing in the world. I would like to cast a Preordain though. That one does excite me. 2 Baubles. I'll take 1 Bauble. And then we can see if the top card of our library is one we want or not. A Delver of Secrets. Do I want a Delver of Secrets right now? I think so. Which means we're playing the Wasteland out. And our Brazen Borrower. Noble Hierarch. It's the same as Wasteland in them, but doesn't cost us a land right now. Stops us taking additional damage, makes use of this Brazen Borrower so we have the card later on to use. Right, they've got themselves another Dryad Arbor. Let's draw our little Delver of Secrets. So we can make a moderately sized Murktide, or we could make Questing Druid and play a Delver and start growing the Druid. Our opponent did not attack. Are they going to cast like second main phase? They don't really have Call of Calling mana unless they're going to get another Dryad Arbor with it. Okay, they were just playing something in the second main. Green, green. Is this just going to be a Zenith for 1? It is. So this is going to be an Allosaurus Shepherd. There it is. Would very much like to vaporize this creature. Because they can live with no fear now. We don't have a counterspell either, so we've kind of got us coming and going in multiple ways here. Brainstorm, you say. If we play the Questing Druid, we don't have that much mana to use our Brainstorm. To use after we've done brainstorming stuff. So I think we're just going to brainstorm. Okay, we'll get rid of some lands here. The Daze doesn't do anything, but we also have 1,000,000 lands. If we put the Tropical Island back, we can fetch the Tropical Island. If we want to. So play a fetch land. We could Seek the Beast looking for a removal spell. We could play the Murktide Regent. I think we Seek the Beast here. So we crack this for a Volcanic. Because the Seek the Beast can find us Grafdigger's Cage as well. Which is going to be really solid. Maybe I'll draw my powerful sideboard card 1 time. We did not. We did draw the Lightning Bolt though. Which is the exact sort of card I've been looking for. Now, does this mean that we are in the clear? No. But our opponent now has to respect our counter magic, and they probably play the game a little bit slower. We lose a Ponder off of that, but we did find the Lightning Bolt in the end. We can make a large Murktide next turn. Alright, cracking for 2 with the Arbor. Dragon's Rage Channeler. I think we are playing this Murktide Regent. This does tell our opponent they need to get a move on soon. I'll take out this Dried Arbor. I don't want to play out 2 cards here. I want our opponent to respect Force of Will. So I think I'm going to get a Trop here. Trop here and deploy the Delver, leaving up red mana, so they're fearing Lightning Bolt. So they're thinking about Lightning Bolt, they're thinking about Pyroblast, they're thinking about Force of Will, as well as Daze. So I'm just trying to put the most on our opponent's mental plate here. We just have this Daze, which works for now. Okay, we're getting plowed. That's annoying, but that's fine. It's just a Nadu. Guess what we don't do? Anything about this. Yikes. We can counter a Nomads if they want to drop that, though. So, Questing Druid is actually going to have to do quite a bit here. It's going to have to be big enough to contest with this in combat. A Wasteland. I will not reveal this. I will cast this Questing Druid, I think. Start scaling this up. I could play a Dragon's Rage Channeler right now to scale it up. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to play this Wasteland and make our Daze more likely to work. Again, we want our opponent to consider a Force of Will. And if we wait another turn, when we start playing stuff, it means we get counters on both of our Questing Druids, so we can attack with multiple creatures, potentially. So I think the maths is in our favour if we do it that way. Right, so the Nadu's coming in for 4. We just take that and move on with life. Cradle, that invalidates our Daze quite easily, I would imagine. Just natural order for the Atraxa, I believe so. Do you know what we can do about that? Absolutely nothing. Oh, a Sylvan Safekeeper. That is not an Atraxa. Okay. That is a better spot for us to be in. I will cast this. I'll play a Dragon's Rage Channeler. We'll grow the team. We can win this fight, I believe. We're going to face. This grows our guys. Unholy Heat. I will put that on top of my... Do I put that on top of my library? It grows our guys. We don't really... Do we have Delirium? We have Instant. We don't have Delirium yet. I'll put it into Graveyard. Right, that puts our opponent to 9, so they have to block our creatures next turn. And maybe we get to fire this Daze off and get Delirium. A Noble Hierarch. I don't think I'm dazing this. If they play any other spell, I will daze it, just so we get a Surveil trigger. So this gives us 2 triggers on these guys. What about the Dragon's Rage Channeler? We get 1 look with the Daze here. And play for the Daze. We probably do want this in play. No, we're not playing anything else after we've done the Daze, though, are we? Alright, we go to attack with everything. Because they have to block some amount of these things. Or we attack with just these 2. These can be 5/5s, so they do have to block these. Let's do it this way. Something's got to give here, opponent. Wow. Let's cast a Brazen Borrower then. Holding priority. Let's do some Surveil. Yeah, okay, so we managed to put the counters on the guy because we had the double spell. I wish we didn't punt the first game this particular round because this is tough. Those look even worse now. Are we supposed to bin those off entirely and bring in something like the Red Blast just for... Like they basically have 1 blue card and it's Nadu. I guess they have the Atraxa as well, but they're not casting that. It's just in play and at that point the damage is already done. Kind of a tough one, this. I just want to draw my Grafdigger's Cage. Is that too much to ask? Is Force of Negation better than Daze here? I'm really uncertain about that. We'll try it. We'll try it for science. I don't really want to be pitching excess cards. But we don't have any sweepers to make our Dazes better. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of red removal in this hand, so sign me right up. We don't have anything to go with this Force of Will yet, but it'll come in time. Grafdigger's Cage. Big fan of seeing that one. Let's just shut that right down straight away. Next turn, hopefully we can Dragon Race Channeler and start bolting their guys. Well, maybe not, I guess. This turns our Unholy Heats into Wastelands, which is fine. We didn't draw the land. That is a little bit awkward. I guess we're going to play the Channeler out first. We now have a Force of Will, so we can surveil towards a land if they play something we don't like. They can select a Dryad Arbor, but it won't come into play. I don't think that's what they're doing there. An Allosaurus Shepherd. Huh. Okay. We do get to kill this whilst they maybe put a spell on the stack, and that messes... Well, actually, we don't necessarily get to kill it because they have the Safekeeper. Interesting. Not feeling amazing about this one. A Swords to Plowshares. I will counter this spell that we're allowed to counterspell. I need to surveil into a land here. Can we turn down all of these red spells? I don't think we can. It's annoying. You got another plow off this Hierarch? They do. Okay, I can live with that. So do I want to affect my opponent's mana right now or not? I think I want to Unholy Heat this creature. I think this is the one they're most likely to sacrifice a land for. There it goes. Okay. We just keep our opponent from putting something like a Nadu into play for a little bit longer. Alright, the Shepherd coming in for 2. Hopefully this means our opponent doesn't have a land drop because they didn't make one in their first main phase. If we can just draw another red source, that'd be lovely. Did not draw another red source. I would like to Lightning Bolt this Noble Hierarch. Either way, they're losing a mana here. I have to imagine some amount of the cards in their hand are Chords, Natural Orders, and Green Sun Zeniths. Like they have 12 of those effects, or up to 12 of those effects. They usually only run 2 or 3 Natural Orders. Alright, they're just letting it go this time. A Noble Hierarch. Bash 4, 2. Alright, we can afford to take a little bit more punishment on these little beats. And Mishra's Bauble. Okay, let's see what our opponent's working with next turn. Crazy Behemoth. That is not a card they want in their hand, so that's good news for us. So we have instant land artifact. So we could save this Unholy Heat because it might kill something bigger later. I would like to kill this Noble Hierarch, I think. Just keep their mana down. Would you rather have a Hierarch? No, they would not rather have a Hierarch than a land. Interesting. Let's get those Wastelands going, I guess. It's fine. Another Lightning Bolt. I guess we're just playing this and then our opponent's going to beat us down with 1-1 guys. As it ever was. No attacks that turn is interesting. Alright, I'm going to... They didn't play anything last turn. Why are they holding it up? I don't know. I'm going to play this guy out, I think. I think this is our breathing room turn to try and get something going. In our upkeep, we will bolt one of these creatures. Just to surveil for a land. I'm going to hit this guy. I want our opponent to keep having the decision to sacrifice lands and make mistakes. So our opponent has some decisions to make. They can make the wrong ones. Our opponent's giving us the GGs. Alright, they didn't want to deal with anymore. Alright, so we finished with a 2-3 record, which is not very good. And certainly a lot worse than winning a Legacy Challenge than what this deck just accomplished. I did play pretty horribly in that last round in the first game, but we managed to bring it back in the last 2 games. I think that matchup looks pretty reasonable. I think the Nadu Zenith build is probably going to be tough. Because they would play a lot more of a controlling game. And I think the Cephalid Breakfast one is going to be pretty even. That would be my guess. I haven't played enough yet with this deck, though, into those matchups. But let's talk about this deck. So it felt good to be doing good old-fashioned Delver stuff again. What I did notice today is we're in a lot of spots where the Dazes didn't really feel amazing. I know a lot of people hate Daze and think it's a thing that should go from the format. But honestly, I think this league was a pretty good showing of how you can play around it. And when we're not living in Psychic Frog world, where you immediately have to answer the Psychic Frog or it starts snowballing the game with all the cards, then you have the time and the space to play around with Daze. Because if we were playing a Psychic Frog and holding up a Daze, our opponent plays into the Daze to kill our guy, and then we get to Daze it, or they don't play into it and we get a free card off the Frog and we're already rolling. So I think the real problem in those situations is very much the 2-mana card advantage threat. So yeah, the Daze was something that our opponents played around a fair bit today. The control matchup, I think, is always going to be something that's going to be a little bit difficult for us because they're designed to grind down this sort of fair Delvery style decks. We have to go very much underneath them, but it's not always a thing we can realistically do. I think the most interesting thing about the league today was we played against Blue-Black Reanimator twice, and we lost twice, quite comprehensively. And that is a little bit worrying, to be honest. I would have thought we'd have been all right into that because, you know, we've got some counter spells, we can apply pressure, we can affect their life total. Maybe it was just that we had 2 matches where it just didn't quite work out for us. But it felt really difficult because we had to have all these like Force of Will style cards in so that we could interact with their Entomb. But then if they start doing like just the, you know, the mid-rangey stuff of Orcish Bowmasters and Metamorphosis Fanatic, even if it's just a 2-mana 4/4 lifelink, how are we supposed to beat a 2-mana 4/4 lifelink? The only way we really interact with it is Unholy Heat, the Brazen Borrower who can bounce it, which can solve the problem until it gets Brainstorm back on top again, and a Murktide that's bigger. But the whole time our opponent is just playing cards out, and we're the one who has to go 2 for 1 with like our Force of Wills to stop a 1-mana play of Entomb. And then they get to play some stuff and defend it with Daze, and they know that what we're doing doesn't require them to do Force of Will stuff really. So they can kind of like ease off on their Force of Wills and just have better interaction. You know, they could go into Thought Seizers if they want to, if that's the thing they have access to. And they can just be playing like the fairer the tempo cards in a configuration to beat the fairer decks because they don't have to worry about some busted combo or anything. And that puts us at a disadvantage, I would say. Now, if we ran this like 100 times into that matchup, I think we would actually get more of an impression of what's going on. These are just my immediate thoughts from having played it just now. Because obviously, the Delver deck disappeared when Psychic Frog was around because people were just running Psychic Frog, Tamiyo in like a blue-black shell with Nethergoyf and stuff like that because there's no reason to run red when Lightning Bolt doesn't work and do anything. And they managed to not invalidate Lightning Bolt, but they made Lightning Bolt look pretty bad against the Fnatic, but it was obviously good against the Bowmaster. But usually when the Bowmasters come in, it's already kind of got its worth to a degree. So I'm not sure if the best tempo deck looks like what we're playing here, or if it is just going to be blue-black reanimated tempo again, because having these tempo gears as well as this combo gear just feels incredibly strong. But in terms of this deck, you know, it performed pretty fine. I did miss having a Surveil land a few times. That was a little bit annoying. That was something I would have potentially gone for. The Questing Druids didn't necessarily do the most. They were fine. They weren't bad. This is a card that in Delver never feels great, but never feels bad. It's just fine. You know, it just does what it does. And maybe that's fine. Maybe we could run something else instead. Because if you get rid of these, then you can trade out this Tropical Island for a Thundering Falls. And that would be quite a useful thing to have access to. I don't think you want to go full into Mystic Sanctuary, but it is always a possibility if that's your jam. You could probably just trade these 2 Questing Druids for 2 Tamiyos. And turn this into a Thundering Falls. Then you have your card advantage thing that snowballs the game early. You have more blue cards for your blue pitch spells. You have a high density of 1-drops. I think I would probably prefer to do something like that. I have seen somebody playing a version of Blue Red Delver with some Chain Lightnings to get over the finish line. I actually quite like that, because a deck like Delver punishes Eldrazi decks quite a lot, because you're flying over in the air, you're punishing their Ancient Tombs, you're knocking them off balance enough, but they're hurting themselves and you smash them. That's the general plan. And historically speaking, Delver has been pretty good into Eldrazi of all stripes. When you're playing red, obviously you have Lightning Bolts, which really help in that, and if we add more reach in, that makes it even better. And then also, if you have more reach, you can kind of address these little Nadu decks, because your reach is also removal spells in Chain Lightning, so you're killing more of their little delighted halflings so that your counter spells actually work on the big spells, or, you know, the Noble Hierarchs, the Allosaurus Shepherds, that sort of thing. As well as also being able to trade into other tempo decks, because you can take out their Orcish Bowmasters, their Dragon's Rage Channelers, their Delver of Secrets, or whatever, their Tamiyos. And you can also point at a flipped Planeswalker like Tamiyo, or, you know, just point at a Nasa that's minus once. So you have a lot of different use you can get out of more burn spells, if that's the sort of route you want to go. It comes at the cost of the Unholy Heat, but I don't. But if you wanted to run more, you could probably like swap these and just have 4 Chain Lightnings in the deck. And also, if you've got Reach, maybe you sometimes get some lines where you punish somebody who's cast a Reanimate spell. Let's say they reanimate an Atraxa or something, or an Archon of Cruelty. Yeah, they gain 3 life off the Archon of Cruelty when it comes in, but they've just paid a bunch of life to get it into play, so they're lower on the deal straight away. So if you can untap and then fire a bunch of burn at them, maybe that's enough. So there's definitely different ways to take Delver. I think a lot of people are messing around with Grixis Delver as well right now. I am a big fan of like the old-fashioned Rug Delver, which, don't you worry, will be on the channel in the new year. I'll be playing some Tarmogoyfs and Stifle for you lovely people and see how it feels. But there's definitely something in the Delver shell. How it's going to be into the field, I'm uncertain though. Obviously, if we can draw our Grafdigger's Cage, that would help. And I don't know what we could play main deck graveyard hate-wise. Also, the Preordain is a flex slot here. If you're playing Chain Lightnings, you don't need the Preordain. So that's another thing you could... It's kind of like these 5 slots, I would say, is where you're looking to tweak this deck list. And obviously, if you get rid of Druid, you get rid of Trop. I don't know what you could play here. If you're in green, you could run the 2-mana enchantment, whose name I've just forgotten, where it comes in and you draw a card, and cards in graveyards can't be targeted. That can shut down some reanimate lines, as well as a few other random bits and pieces. And that is reasonable if you're in green. But if you're in black, you get to run Nile Spellbomb, which is just better. So maybe that's an attraction to running black right now because it fights against the other decks better. I don't think we're fully in the stage of needing the main deck Grafdigger's Cages, but maybe we are. I don't know. Like, think about it. We have 3 Nadu decks, all of which put creatures into play from libraries or graveyards, whether it's Narcomoebas coming in off of the Cephalid Breakfast deck, whether it's Green Sun Zenith out of the Zenith build, or Natural Order and Chord of Calling out of the Chord build. And then you've got Blue-Black Reanimator. And in terms of the matches I've played since the bans have gone live, that accounts for quite a significant portion of the field. So maybe you do want a main deck Grafdigger's Cage now. That's a bit worrying, isn't it? Obviously, you can also hate on things like the odd Snapcaster Mage you might see, or some other random bits and pieces. So, yeah, that's certainly something to think about. Alright, I think we're done for this one, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing a bit of Delver back on your screens. We'll be seeing some more Delver in no time at all, I'm sure. Do love the little creature indeed. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.